Let's talk about the happenings over the last couple of days. I'm not going to read you the news at all. I want us to look at the news, which is now history, and see where this is taking us. So Clicks releases a Tresemme advertisement that is not received very well by the EFF goon squad. It would appear that the EFF are also the only ones who are unhappy with this advertisement. In response to the advertisement, their moron-in-chief, Julius Malema, comes out and publicly calls on his supporters to go out and, I quote, attack Click stores. What do his supporters go and do? They go and attack Click stores countrywide, causing millions in damages by vandalism, petrol bombing, looting, and downright savage behavior. To try and prevent this, Clicks applies to the courts to prevent the EFF terrorists from causing any damage to their stores. They apply to the courts for an interdict preventing the EFF from protesting their stores and causing damage. The court promptly denies Clicks the order, and in so doing, directly gives the EFF the go-ahead to attack Click stores. Today, after millions of rands worth of damages are done to Click stores all over the country, the courts now decide that it is okay to grant the order, preventing the EFF from doing any further damages. Now my question is, in what universe is this kind of thing acceptable? How can we still say that we have any kind of judiciary in this country when a court of law makes decisions like this? The facts are that Julius Malema gave the order to his followers to literally go out and attack Click stores, and that is exactly what they did. There is no way this can be misinterpreted in any other way. The judge had to have known that. Don't you think it is somewhat weird that Clicks themselves have not laid any charges against Julius Malema and the EFF? At least not that I am aware of. Today the Human Rights Council decides that they now want to investigate Clicks. For what? A goddamned hair product advertisement that someone didn't like? And then to crown it all, today at a Clicks outlet in the Walmer Park shopping centre in Port Elizabeth, an elderly woman who had just exited the Clicks where she had been doing some shopping was harassed by a mob of EFF members. She was clearly outnumbered and severely intimidated by them. At no point did I see her do or say anything to provoke any hostilities towards her, but the mob kept at her, and even though a few security guards tried to put themselves between her and the mob, one of the EF members lunged forward and, while her back was turned to them, pushed her on her shoulder. She immediately turned to face the mob, drawing a firearm and pointing it at the person who had shoved her. In true cowardly fashion, the moron that had shoved her disappeared faster than he appeared. After diffusing the situation, the elderly lady returned the firearm to its concealed position and proceeded to leave the building, where she was arrested outside, handcuffed and taken away. Now, for an average person, I might have concluded that drawing a firearm could be said to be an overreaction. But if you take into account this lady's age and obviously vulnerable position, I honestly don't blame her for drawing the firearm and would not have been surprised if she had actually opened fire. She must have been terrified. I was, however, pleased to hear that a while later the charges against her were dropped, her firearm was returned to her and she was released. I don't know any other details about this other than what I've just told you, but I'd like to know more. Think about it. Not too long ago, something like this would have been unheard of. The situation in this country has got to such a point that our senior citizens now see the need to arm themselves when going shopping. Personally, I see this as a good thing, but in a civilized world this should not be necessary. It saddens me and makes me happy at the same time to see that people of all ages are opening their eyes to the reality of what is happening in the world around them and taking the necessary precautions. Now I'd like to bring up something I find quite puzzling. Many of my older subscribers or listeners will remember Barend Strydom the Witwolf. For those of you who don't know who he is, on the 15th of November 1988, Barend Strydom, acting totally alone, walked into Strydom Square in Pretoria and opened fire, killing 8 and wounding a further 16. All his victims were black. Why am I bringing this up, you may ask? Well, in my opinion, Barend Strydom could be considered to be, let's just say, slightly simple from what I have seen of him in television interviews, etc. I know for a fact that there are many more just like him out there. I'm also sure that the current situation in South Africa is far worse than it was back then. So my question is this: if there are many more like him out there, and the situation is far worse now than it was then, why have we not seen another Barend Strydom incident? Why have we not seen a repeat of what Barend Strydom did on the 15th of November 1988? Now, I'm not saying that someone should go out there and shoot a bunch of people at all. What I am saying is I am very surprised that someone hasn't done it yet. My guess is that we aren't very far from it. Here's why I say this. Firstly, as I said earlier, the situation in South Africa is far worse now than it was then. You can't even begin to compare the levels of violent crime today to what they were back in 1988. We are on a whole new level now. Secondly, as I also said earlier, we have an abundance of people with the mentality of Baron among us, everywhere. Thirdly, the levels of desperation among the poor these days are far more serious than they were in 1988. If you look at these factors alone, it is a miracle that we have not seen a repeat performance. The only reason I can think of for us not having had another Baron event is the fact that the white population has been so brainwashed and psychologically beaten into submission over the years since 1988 that the threshold for some people doing things like this has moved. Where has it moved to, you might ask? Well, in my opinion, we are going to find out pretty soon. I mean, we have never seen things like what happened yesterday in Port Elizabeth. That could have easily ended up in another Baron event. It is going to take one such event to trigger someone into action, and we are going to have all hell break loose. If and when this happens, can we really blame whoever commits the act? We all have our own thresholds, and I am sure there are many out there that are within a hair's breadth of their threshold limits right now. Don't be surprised when it does happen. Please like and share this video on as many social media platforms as possible. It's the only way my content gets out there. If you enjoy my content and would like to see more in future, simply click on the big red subscribe button below and to the right of this video. While you're there, click on the bell icon to receive notifications every time I upload new content. If you would like to support my channel and my work, in the description field I have provided ways in which both local as well as international viewers can make a contribution. I've also provided a Zapper code for those who would prefer the convenience of using Zapper. Simply pause the video at any time you see the Zapper QR code. To all those amazing people who do contribute to my channel, I say a huge thank you. Be safe out there. Until next time.